Zweig Group invites all AEC industry leaders to the 2024 AEC Small Business and Entrepreneurship Forum, the premier event for small firms in the AEC sector. Experience innovative strategies and insights on May 21st, crafted by Zweig Group's industry experts. Engage in keynotes and interactive sessions focused on recruitment, retention, and business growth. Join Zweig Group for this unique networking opportunity and take your business to new heights. Secure your spot today and be part of the AEC industry's future. Visit zweiggroup.com for more information. The Zweig Group team looks forward to welcoming you.
Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcasts, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting guru Mark Zweig and his team of experts straight talk in your ear. Mark has more than 30 years of experience helping AEP and environmental firms thrive, and these podcasts deliver his invaluable management, industry, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop professionally, wherever you are.
Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. I am Randy Wilburn, and I'm here today with
Sanjay Jenkins.
And we are back for another episode. We're going to do something a little different this time. We're not going to get into all the particulars about Zweig Group because you know about us, you know who we are, you know what we do. There's an opening for that, and actually that's going to be changing too in the very near future. So I look forward to giving you a new look and a new feel for the podcast. I've gotten great feedback from several of the listeners, and a lot of people want to go right to the podcast when they turn it on. And so we're certainly not going to belabor the point. We are going to get right into the meat of the podcast each episode. And so hopefully over the next couple of weeks, you'll see some slight modifications made so that there will still be an open and there'll be a close, but they'll be shortened and they'll be right to the point. And that way you can get right to the heart of the matter and hear our beautiful voices and rejoice from that. So
it's like a next season, a second season.
Exactly, right. Yeah. It is kind of like a second season. I mean, I'm working on a number of initiatives, but that's one of them, just to kind of fine tune this. And we really want to hear from you, the listening audience. There is an open invitation. If you're a CEO or a COO or a HR manager or director of HR or some type of leader in a design industry, we want to hear from you. If you'd love to come on the podcast, we'd love to have you as a guest. We will set up time for you to be interviewed via Skype or some other resource that we can easily set up. And you can be anywhere and I can be anywhere and we can interview you or Sanjay can interview you. It doesn't really matter. But the bottom line is, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get you involved. I'm actually working on another initiative where we're going to start talking to the people working in the design industry, obviously the practitioners. We actually had James Hilligus, who is a young man, a young structural engineer, just cutting his teeth in the industry. He's a millennial. He's a weightlifter. He's a lot of things. A really sharp, really smart. Entrepreneur, really smart guy. We had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I got to tell you, it was a really good program just to hear him talk. And I think the thing that comes out of these podcasts is that there's so many different shared experiences that need to be told, and so we want to make sure that we are giving everyone access to this platform when and where possible. I wish we could have everybody on. We can't do that, but we can certainly line you guys up. If you'd love to be on the Zweig Letter Podcast, we'd like to have you. And again, I am working on another podcast that we're going to start doing, and it's going to be geared towards the practitioners in the industry, those engineers and architects and environmental consultants and planners and construction managers and landscape architects that are making it happen day in and day out. So that should be fun, and just listen out more for that. We also have another special announcement that I will make at the end of this episode about our Zweig Letter. It is now free.
Totally digital, completely free.
Totally free. FREE. And we want to make sure that you get yourself signed up for a subscription, a digital subscription to the Zweig Letter. We want you to set up your firm on it so that everybody in the office can get this editorial goodness that comes out of here in Fayetteville, Arkansas, once a week. Mark writes a masthead piece every week, and I tell you, I look forward to Mark's articles. I look forward to what he has to share and what everybody else that's participating and sharing in the Zweig letter, what they're talking about. We've got just about every consultant in Zweig group writes an article for the Zweig letter. I've written several now. At this point, I've got several dozen articles out there on archive that you have access to. And that's the other thing. When you subscribe to the Zweig letter, you also have access to the archives, and you can look up, you can read about any piece of information that you want to read about. If you're doing some due diligence, if you just want to check in and see how other peer firms are doing, this is your chance to take advantage of it. So listen, I don't care whatever else you do, even if you shut this podcast off right after this, you need to go get a free digital subscription to the Zweig letter.
And you can do so on thezweigletter.com. That's THE, zweigletter.com. Yeah, you got to have the D at the beginning. Or you can go to zweiggroup.com/TZL to get you're signed up for your free subscription. And if you want your entire firm or like a group of individuals at your firm to receive the Zweig letter, the digital subscription every week, just shoot me a spreadsheet, a CSV file with your first name, your last name, and your email address.
That's all we need.
Yeah. And then I'll put them in there and you'll be getting the Zweig letter.
Yeah. You can send that to Sanjay or myself. It doesn't really matter. We will get it in there right away. I mean, we just had a firm recently sign up like 300 people.
We've had 300. 600. We've had 600.
Yeah. I mean, so we will give it to everyone.
Since we went over to the free model, we doubled the size of our list.
Oh, absolutely. And
less than a week.
Yeah, it's going to grow even more. And again, I think the idea is that, there's so much great information out there. We want to make sure that you're getting our great information, and we also want to save you some time and just make the barrier to entry as low as possible for accessing the minds of the consultants and writers here at Zweig Group.
And thought leaders across the industry as well.
Right. It's not just limited to us. We've got really great people that write on a regular basis. Some of you that are listening to this podcast are writers for the Zweig letter. So we really want to encourage you to get the word out. And especially if you are listening to this and you've written for the Zweig letter as a leader in the industry, you and your firm is not signed up for digital copies of the Zweig letter for all of your employees, you need to reach out to us right away. We'll get that set up instantly. So enough of that public service announcement. Let's move on. And what have we been talking about the last few weeks?
We have been talking about using new media for hiring and keeping great talent.
Right. Yeah. And I think the idea is simply, and one of the reasons why I wrote the original article was that, we have to be as creative as possible to find the best talent, to find the right people. I was on the phone this morning with a potential client, and I was explaining to him how hard it is to get good people. And I said, look, this guy's a structural engineer. And I said, listen, and I know that you could pretty much go anywhere and get a job tomorrow. It's never a question. People like you aren't looking for jobs. So how do you, and I say you collectively, how do the firms that are listening to this, that are represented in the listenership of this podcast, how do you differentiate yourself from your competitors? How do you do things a little differently in order to attract great talent to your firm? And how do you keep the great talent that you already have on staff? I think it's a twofer, if you will. And so we've talked about a number of things. The first topic that we talked about was blogging, and we spent some time on that and why it's important for your firm to have a blog, why you should be posting great content that helps bring you to the first page of search on Google when it comes to your area of expertise. And I think we talked a little bit about Big Red Dog and how successful they've been with this. And they're essentially ranking on the first page of Google search for just about every main keyword for what they serve in the design industry.
And not just the small ones, the long tail ones
right,
too.
Yeah. It's not just about it's not about the smaller, just one single word keywords, but like even the long tail keywords, which are huge. And one day we'll do another episode. We'll talk a little bit more about this. I mean, we don't claim to be SEO experts, but we do want to share with you some ideas that can help you be more effective, because we know firms that are out there that are spending a lot of money with, and I'm using air quotes here, SEO experts that aren't doing anything for them. They're not getting any bang for their buck.
Right. And we do, as Y Group, our marketing department, we do, we build websites for people. We do redesigns.
Yep.
We do all of that.
Absolutely.
And so we are constantly studying up on the best practices, what indexes well, what doesn't.
Yeah.
So maybe we're not necessarily experts, but we're certainly getting there. We're putting in the work, we're studying, and I'm a part of that team.
I know.
I see it firsthand.
Yeah, you guys are getting it. And can we talk here? I mean, we're all family, and I'm just a little tongue in cheek, but a lot of engineering firms, websites, the websites that I see on a regular basis are absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost, I don't have adjectives to use to describe some of these websites that I've seen. I mean, it's almost forgotten.
It's like 2006 level or 2002 level.
I mean, I'm going way back to AOL and like 1999 and 98.
Oh,
and, I mean,
throwback
pre MySpace stuff. I mean, I'm like, man, you got to do better. And these are from firms that are doing well. I mean, these are firms that are making some serious coin. They're having some success, but they have just not taken the time to update all of that residual material that is so important. And I'm speaking of a website, and you know who you are. I'm not going to put you on blast, but if you need some help, come see us. We can at least give you some information, some ideas, and just kind of walk you through some ways you can improve upon it. I mean, Sanjay spends a lot of time just reviewing websites for clients, just to give them some feedback. And, we do some basic checking to check the analytics and to look at how your site is performing overall. We may look at a heat map and figure out why people are like banging off your site really fast. Like they get there and then
the bounce rates.
The bounce rates are off the chart. It's like, well, where are they going? Well, they're not staying on your site for several reasons, and here's why. And so Sanjay can kind of figure that stuff out for you and take advantage of that. And I mean, these are not costly efforts,
right?
But it's the kind of thing where a lot of you guys operate with the don't ask, don't tell idea, and I'm telling you that you need to ask, and we will tell you exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah.
We won't hold anything back, and we won't sugarcoat it, because you're not paying us or you're not calling us to misguide you or to lie to you in any way. We want you to be the best the best version of you as a company that you can be. That's why we're sharing the kind of information that we're sharing today. That's why we're talking about what we're talking about. But blogging and content development is extremely important. Don't overlook it. And if you need help in this area, you just don't know where to start, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to talk with you about that and kind of walk you through some of the things that you can do. So
let's get on to what we're here to talk about today.
Yes.
AR, VR, and gamification.
Exactly, and all that good stuff. So when you think of virtual reality and augmented reality, obviously these areas still have a ways to go before they become fully adopted by the largest pool of users possible. But, virtual reality is, kind of immersive. It's kind of bringing you into a computer world. A lot of times people think of virtual reality like Tron or, some of these old movies there. But, it's a way for you to experience something without, leaving wherever you are.
Yeah.
And then when you think of augmented reality, you think of like being immersed in a real world environment that you can identify with, that you can physically see. It's almost like, there are augmented reality tools out now, like IKEA has one, and I have the new iPhone 8, and the iPhone 8 allows augmented reality. And so I can use my IKEA application to take a picture of my living room and then take any IKEA furniture, rug, it doesn't matter, lamp, and I can take it and place it in that physical room on my phone. If I want to get an idea, it is crazy if you think about it, but if I want to get an idea of what this is going to look like or how this is going to, play out, I can do that. And that's what augmented reality does for you nowadays. I mean, it kind of gives you a taste test of things without spending any money.
And it's like the practical applications behind the technology, that was used in Pokemon Go last summer. It was AR back then. And now, if you don't feel if you think that augmented reality is not interesting, I would say look at what Apple did when they unveiled the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10. They spent so much time talking about this new A11X Bionic chip.
Right.
And the big thing was the AR kit.
Right.
And they had a big display on, AR being used for a video game. This is one of the biggest companies in the world, arguably the technology drivers behind, everything that happens.
Yep.
And they're saying, we're betting on AR.
Yeah.
We see the value in AR.
Yeah.
So take their cue and say, okay, all right, like, how can we apply this to the stuff that we do? So in a hiring and like a talent acquisition and retention standpoint, do you see anything? Can you predict anything or forecast like how this technology could be used, or maybe on a content perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of ways right now that I know for a fact companies are using virtual reality to immerse a potential candidate in a quote unquote day in the life at fill in the blank firm.
Okay.
Where they're able to give that individual a feel for what the office is going to be like. So say the candidate's in Southern California and they may be working in the Detroit office. That candidate can then go online or can actually use a special application on their phone and look at with virtual reality goggles or some other different things, can look at the actual setup of an office or what it's like, and say you can even go one step further, because I know people are listening to this podcast and they may say, well, what if one of these candidates that we're recruiting doesn't have that equipment? Well, you can send it to them. Maybe there's a way for you to send them kind of like an example. I mean, if you're serious about hiring somebody, and we always say the stakes are high when it comes to hiring engineers and architects, because good engineers and good architects are few and far between.
Right.
You better do what you need to do to persuade them. And if that calls for you to send them
Google Cardboard.
Yeah, Google Cardboard is the easiest way to do it. But you find out if a candidate has a Android phone or an iPhone, and you can do that right up front when you query them, or if they fill out an application, you can ask them up front, which smartphone do you use? And right away, oh, you use Android? Great. I'm going to send you these Google Cardboard glasses. I'd love for you to take a tour of our office. We'd love to have you come visit, but we want to give you a feel up front of what it would be like to work here. Kind of take you through a day in the life. I've also got an experience that I'd like you to see, which will give you a feel for one of our most recent functions that we had for the team. We had a bowling outing, and somebody was kind enough to videotape that bowling outing, and you can get a feel for what it's like to hang around people both in the office as well as out of the office. That's what virtual reality and what augmented reality can do for you, especially from a recruiting standpoint.
Right.
I mean, it just gives you so many different options when it comes to that you're able to kind of take advantage of that technology and leverage what you guys are all about to a much wider audience. And as more and more people adopt this technology, it's just going to make more sense. But why not be on the cutting edge now?
Yeah.
Other industries are using it big time.
Yeah.
And so, I would highly encourage you. I also think that VR is going to play a major role in the training and development of employees. I mean, obviously, VR has been used for years for pilots. I mean, years, right? I mean, simulators, naturally. I mean, I remember as a kid using the flight simulator. That was my thing. I used to love that. Yeah, it was fun. So, but nowadays, the stuff that they're using for flight simulation is so realistic. It's like, one of our colleagues' daughters flies those unmanned planes, and they go through a lot of training with that. And so it's the same thing. I mean, you can really create some really neat applications with this type of technology. And even if you spend a little bit of money to do this and you're trying to grow a large team over the long term, I would be willing to bet on you as a firm when you do that it will pay off in the long run, because a lot of times your peer competitors in this industry are slow to adopt. And as surprising as that is, because we're in an industry where we're constantly looking at new ways to build things. I mean, we work in the built environment, right? So there's constant change. There's new technology at all times. We gravitate towards that from a work standpoint, but not when we think about other ways that we could be leveraging that technology to advance our team, to entice or to hire new people to join the firm. I mean, there's so many creative things that we could be doing to kind of get a feel for what it's like to be with your organization. So I just really want to encourage people to start thinking about AR and VR. And, I know AR is not as prevalent for a lot of people, but it's just a matter of time before AR starts to take off. And there's plenty of opportunities for people to utilize that technology.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. And I can't even, I'm sure, I don't know. If you get a chance to talk to James Hilligus, and Randy, you've already done so. And, if you get a chance to talk to him again, I mean, he's working on some AR, VR stuff from the technical standpoint. Like how much can you, from like maybe a proposal presentation, right? Rather than, sending a paper or just a binder full of things, send a 3D goggles or your VR headset. And or when you're on a project site, use augmented reality to say, okay, well, this is what it looks like now, but once it's finished, here's how it's going to look like. You can see it on your phone. How crazy would that be?
That would be crazy. And I can see, I mean, there's a million different applications, and this all isn't talent acquisition related. Yeah. I think it's across the board that you'll be able to use this technology and really benefit from it. So I want to encourage you, to everyone listening, to really start thinking about how VR and AR will impact your organization and how it's going to impact this industry as a whole. And look at what some of the other industries are doing. I mean, there's, like they say, there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah. A lot of stuff is happening in a lot of different spaces. Doesn't mean you can't do it. And you don't always have to be the first adopter. Somebody else could have done it and kind of set the standard. Now you pick up and run with it. Yeah. And continue to develop it. So I just really want to encourage people out there that are listening that, to me, it's one thing that I'm going to be doing. I talk about it all the time. Whenever I go away and do a seminar, or whenever I do the Hiring and Keeping Great Talent seminar, I talk about VR and AR. I talk about the gamification and designing of ways to entice people from a recruitment perspective. I talk about all that, and I know we're going to spend a few minutes talking about digital gaming and gamification, but in the recruiting process. But all of this is coming, whether people like it or not. AI is here, and that's AI stands for artificial intelligence. Yes, the robots will take over one day. Skynet is coming for us, whether we like it or not. I just hope and pray that it doesn't lead to some type of apocalyptic situation. Right. Let's just hope it's the nice one and not the bad one, right? But, certainly we could always fast forward and be on a Federation starship somewhere and, be doing some cool things across the universe. But for right now, here's where we are. And I believe that, there's enough technology to go around for all of us to be successful with it. And so if nothing else, we just want to encourage you to be thinking about ways that you can apply some of the things that you're doing in your organization on a regular basis, whether it's talent acquisition, whether it's business development, whether it's technical specifications or things that you're trying to do to improve your craft. Be thinking about these different ways that you could be using technology to advance the cause. Yeah. So just really want to encourage you. A couple of other things, in terms of VR, AR, you could use VR for employer branding, talent attraction, talent assessment, and training. We talked about that. Job training, flight simulators. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So there are just a number of different ways that you can use the AR and specifically the virtual reality to take advantage of that. The other thing that I did want to talk about briefly before we close out, because we want to be mindful of the time that we have, and I'd love to kind of keep this under a 30-minute time frame, because that, for anyone that runs a 9-minute mile, that's probably like a 5K, and so we want to get this our goal is to get this podcast in under the time of a 5K for a fairly decent runner. So
definitely not me.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got to do what they got to do.
That's true.
So, yeah. So, when you think of digital gaming and gamification, a lot of you guys may be thinking of like Madden and World of Warcraft and Angry Birds and other stuff like that. But why would this even be a topic to discuss? But the reality is that digital gaming and gamification as a whole has been used for quite some time. Firms are using it, like Marriott. Mm-hmm. They're using digital games to encourage and to kind of gauge the abilities of potential hires.
Right.
There are a number of companies that are using gamification to determine whether or not an individual is going to be a cultural fit. Yeah. For their organization, and whether it's right or wrong, it's something that's being used on a regular basis to kind of gauge talent and to kind of see where people stand. And so, I really want to encourage you to be thinking about ways that you can do that. And there's some really inexpensive ways to create games. I know that the testing company that does the GMAT and all that, Kaplan, I think they have a gaming program set up to gauge those individuals that want to work for them and how successful they'll be, and they use certain metrics to determine that. And there's just a lot of different ways that you can increase your ability to hire and keep great talent with these gaming techniques and digital programs that can kind of help you do that. And I think of like Pokemon Go, how fast that took off. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why Marriott created an app to kind of train people and show them what it's like working for them. Yeah. And the game that Marriott created is actually kind of cool. It has to do with a kitchen in a hotel, and so there are just certain applications from that really lend themselves to giving somebody a bird's eye view of what it's like to work for the firm. And then people can make informed decisions from there.
So from my own study, one of the big things about gamification is like it's used to drive engagement in whatever task you're doing. So whether it's a hiring or a recruiting function, like getting the applicant more engaged in your ecosystem, and the more engaged they are, the more likely they are to give you the kind of the insights that are going to show you how they are going to integrate with your firm, how they're going to work within your ecosystem.
Right.
I think it's very interesting, gamification, in the context of training and learning.
Yeah.
If you've tried to learn a new language recently, or, the last few years, you may have come across the app called Duolingo. Yeah. It's got a little owl. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. You get points for the more, correct answers you do, and you can see how many points your friends have racked up, the streaks, how many days they've worked on it, and just little things like that. Like, so the gaming element of behind learning the language, so getting points for getting correct answers, or the leaderboard situation. Those little things, they incentivize using that application, that process more, and giving more attention to that. And I think that's very interesting. I think with gamification, what it allows you to do is accelerate the rate that you learn, or that whoever's using the system is learning.
Right.
I was listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast, and he was talking to Derek Sievers, who did CD Baby.
Yep.
And he had a mentor who once told him the standard pace is for chumps when it comes to learning something.
Yeah.
For me, I've always been big on like learning hacks. Like, how can I learn this faster, or what is the minimum amount of information I need to like get to where I want to get?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
not overburdening yourself with too much information until you actually need it, like just-in-time learning.
Yeah, just-in-time, and gamification lends itself really well to something like just-in-time learning.
Absolutely.
And what this allows you to do is create, I just from my own perspective, a much more capable, flexible workforce.
Yeah.
If you're able to provide your employees with resources and systems that help them learn new skills faster and implement those skills as well, I mean, you become almost all powerful.
Exactly.
Especially in such a tight labor market when talent's so hard to find. If you can, Zweig Group has prided itself in, servicing one industry time and again, in a multitude of ways. And, every time there's this we've got a news clipping from when the company was on the Inc. 500 list, like way back, went back in the Boston days.
Yeah.
And there's a really great quote by Mark Zweig. It's like, we constantly, I'm going to paraphrase here, but it's like we constantly service the same industry by providing, fulfilling needs, finding solutions to problems for this one group of people, just constantly. I mean, having a workforce that's capable of doing that time and again, that's huge, powerful.
Yeah, hyper focus. It's a nice thing I like. I'm glad I'm back in the design space because it's a very focused niche, and you kind of know what people need and what they want, and just figure out ways to give it to them. I mean, that's it, time and time again. Yeah. So, but okay, well, listen, I think we've kind of hit our wall today. So I think that was good. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Zweig Letter podcast. Really wanted to remind you and reiterate, even though we had a little mini TZL commercial in the middle of the podcast, Sanjay, why don't you remind them of the website they can go to get their free digital copy of the Zweig Letter?
My favorite location would be thezweigletter.com.
Right.
Thezweigletter.com.
Right.
And if you don't want to go to thezweigletter.com and read all the articles online, you see what you're going to get every Monday at 11. Yeah. That's fine. You can go to zweiggroup.com/TZL to get a free subscription to the Zweig Letter. And if you want your entire firm or a large group of people at your firm to receive the Zweig Letter, just shoot me a message and send me a CSV with your first name, your last name, and your email, and the same pieces of information for all the people you want to receive TZL, and I'll get it in. I manage the system, so I will be the one getting it in there
at any time, and it doesn't matter how many it is. Just we'll take care of it.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah, you got 1,000 people. We got 1,000 subscriptions for you.
That's right.
Free.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, as a reminder, all Zweig Group media programs like this one are available in both podcast and in some instances, video format, free for download on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube, just to name a few places. A link to all this information, including contact information for Sanjay or myself, will be in our show notes. And we'd love it if you'd go to iTunes or wherever you tune into this show and give us a 5-star rating and share this link with a friend, because
it's the best.
And sharing is caring.
Oh, sharing is caring. That's I was not ready for it.
I know you are. I just kind of threw it to you. It's all good. Listen, I'm Randy Wilburn.
I'm Sanjay Jenkins.
And you've been listening to Zweig Group Media, part of Zweig Group. Remember, we exist to make you more successful. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter podcast. We hope that you can apply Mark's no-holds-barred advice to your daily professional life. For a free transcript of this or any episode of our podcast, please visit info.zweiggroup.com/podcast. If you want more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about finance, HR, and marketing your firm, subscribe to the print or digital version of the Zweig Letter online at zweiggroup.com/publications.